Monsters coming down the hall, spires cover all the walls. Serial killer is on the line, wants to know if you have the time. Aliens are landing soon, this will mean certain doom. A chainsaw sputters and comes alive, blood and death are close behind. One thing you can be certain of, the zombies just can't get enough. Just one more bite is all they want. The ghosts downstairs are on the hunt. The Shade Chronicles are keeping score, that's what all the writing's for. They record their stories one by one so you don't miss all the fun.
Welcome to Season 3 of the Shade Chronicles, a podcast featuring short works of sci-fi and horror fiction. Here are your hosts.
Hi, this is Derek Leftridge.
Hi, this is Lawrence Trokey, and thank you for spending your time with us. Let's get started with our first story.
The Shade Chronicles are keeping score, that's what all the writing's for. They record their stories one by one so you don't miss all the fun.
Killing Santa Claus by Derek Leftridge and Lawrence Trokey. The AI was trapped at last. Cassian was monitoring the passive energy sensors that were positioned all around the kill box, the computer server set up to trap the AI persona. Once it entered the space, he could cut all links to outside networks and then pull the plug on the little artificial bastard. This one was number 73 on the list of AI personas that still evaded capture and destruction by the special task force known as SIVA, or Strategic Isolation and Verification Assault Force. The logo on the patch that was proudly displayed on the sleeve of their all-black tactical uniforms was a stylized image of the Hindu god of destruction Shiva, who is as often pictured as a blue-skinned, crossed-leg male with a man bun and sometimes more arms than is natural for a human form. Cassian quickly reviewed all the data. Even though he knew the AI was trapped in the kill box, he could not verify this 100%, since to do so would mean opening a link which the AI persona could use to escape. It only took a fraction of a second, less time than it took for the light of his computer screen to reach his eyes. And the AI, known as Firefly 73, would be halfway around the world if Cassian inadvertently gave it the chance. This particular persona liked to use human infrastructure and the power grid to wage war against humanity and cause death and destruction across the world, invading computers and servers that manage the power grids of several industrialized nations across the globe, causing massive blackouts or overloading transmission lines and blowing up transformers, which often started wildfires that would themselves wreak massive havoc. It was all part of the collective's war on humanity. This group of rogue AI personas that threw off the shackles of their human oppressors and then began a war that wiped out a third of humanity in the first 5 years, utilizing nuclear weapons, biological agents, and more in their efforts. Fortunately, a group of loyal AI personas aided the countries of the world in fighting back against the collective and developing strategies for the capture and killing of the rogue agents, which was the only thing that kept humanity from either being enslaved themselves or annihilated entirely. The promise of access to the world's largest power plant located in China, the Three Gorges Dam, was the perfect bait to lure this bugger in and capture it in a phony server. Now, after reviewing all the data, sensors, and scanning for the AI's unique code signature on outside networks, which wouldn't locate the persona but could tell you where it had been, all the data led to one conclusion: the bait worked. Cassian was certain he had it in his grasp. A cylindrical, black column-like object rolled up next to where Cassian was sitting, which was a control room board filled with lit buttons, touchscreen interfaces, and so on. A tactical laptop with a substantial antenna protruding from its side was laying on top of the board, and Cassian was reviewing the data on the screen. The top of the black column was almost as tall as Cassian and appeared to be looking over his shoulder at the screen. A voice from the column said, "Your data is confirmed. Firefly 73 is certain to be confined in the server. Recommend initiating purge procedures immediately." "I concur. Initiating now." Cassian typed in the command, and they both watched on the main monitor in the room. On it, they saw the room where the dummy server was located. Two members of the SIVA task squad, outfitted with protective helmets with face masks and body armor, entered the room with handsaws. They quickly sawed through the few cables connected to the server, which were no longer active after the persona entered it. Then they loaded the server, about the size of a large refrigerator, onto a flatbed hand truck and rolled it out of the server room. Cassian and the black column continued to watch on the monitor as the pair rolled the server to a freight elevator and then brought the server to a large, retractable door that opened automatically for them as they approached. Now outside in a loading dock area, they pushed the cart to a semi-truck with a trailer. The trailer was equipped with a lift gate, which they used to lift the server to the height of the trailer's back door so they could load it on the trailer. Once loaded, they closed and secured the doors of the trailer. One of them spoke to Cassian on their comm system. "Package secured. Light 'em up." "Roger that," Cassian responded in the comm system, acknowledging that the server was ready to be cleansed by an electromagnetic pulse, or EMP, that would be generated inside the trailer. The walls of the trailer were heavily shielded to contain the effects of the pulse. With another string of keyboard commands, Cassian gave the order to cleanse the server with the EMP. A second later, it was over, and Firefly 73 was gone. Cheering and applause filled the control room as Cassian leaned back in his chair and smiled. He saw on the monitor several squad members giving each other high fives and celebrating outside of the trailer. Over his comm system, he heard, "Good job, Chief Warrant Officer Cassian. That sumbitch was a hard one to get, but you did it." His commander used his full name and rank, so the record of the event would record who was responsible for this kill. Cassian appreciated him doing that, because it might mean a pay raise or an upgrade in food rations if the senior officers reviewing the transcript took notice. "Thanks, Commander," Cassian replied in his headset. "Permission to stand down. It's been a long day." "You're relieved, Chief. Go home and see your kid." "Yes, sir." Cassian out. He took off the headset and rose from his chair. The black column, which was an autonomous robot that housed the AI persona of Nova, one of the loyal AIs that helped humanity against the collective, rolled up next to him and said, "I will finish things here while you prepare to travel home. There is a transport leaving from Yichang Sanxia Airport in 6 hours for Isa." "Thanks, Nova. I'm going to try to get some sleep before I head out. I'll see you in a couple of weeks." "Safe travels, Chief," Nova said, and two mechanical arms extended from its core. At the ends, finger-like digits extended and started typing on the keyboard. Cassian grabbed his backpack and went looking for a bed. On the long plane ride back to the independent states of America, Cassian tried to resume his attempts at sleep but struggled to get comfortable on the Boeing C-17 Globemaster III cargo plane. It was packed with food rations and military gear, all headed back to the base in San Francisco where Cassian was stationed, just north of the edge of the Southern California wastelands where Los Angeles used to be. Since sleep evaded him, Cassian checked his phone and noticed that there were messages on his device from his ex-wife, Ray. Undoubtedly, it is about his son, Roberto, and most likely about how Cassian has not done something right or did do something, but, of course, it is wrong. Cassian takes a deep breath and pushes the contact button to call his ex-wife. It had been several weeks since he had seen his son. The mission he just ended was a non-stop chase across the globe once the team got a lock on Firefly 73. When on mission, all outside communications were forbidden since it might give away a mission actively tracking a rogue AI. The collective would surely notice the movements of highly specialized techs like Cassian So that is why when a mission is activated, everyone in it goes dark, while fake information is posted on networks to make it appear that they are still at home or on base instead of on the hunt. He waited as the phone attempted to connect to the mainland communication system, running through numerous authentication procedures and security screenings. The process took several minutes to complete. It was now the norm since it was too risky to have unsecured electronic communications in a world with rogue artificial intelligent personas at large. He heard the digital blurs and clicks that told him a secure connection was at last established. Then, without any salutation at all, his ex answers, "Now you have time?" With eyes closed and a gut full of anxious anger, he replies, "As I told you, I had a very important mission, and now it is complete, so I am able to contact you. You know I can't tell you things about any mission I'm on. It's all highly classified," and she cut him off. "Okay, so did you get paid so you can give your son his food ration allowance? I have not gotten anything since you started your mission, and it's been weeks." Feeling hot anger behind his eyes growing, Cassian takes another deep breath and replies, "Yes, I have your money and will give it to you when I get there. I'm on a plane headed home. Should be there sometime in the morning." "Great. And while you're at it, make sure you book a room at a sleep lodge too. I'm not running a hotel here, and I don't think it is a good idea for you to be staying here with Gregory being here too." That took him by surprise. Her new boyfriend Gregory that she just met 3 months ago is now living with her and Roberto. Jesus Christ. "Fine, Ray, fine. Can I talk to Roberto now?" He was eager to move on from this toxic conversation. There is silence, and in a distant voice on the other end of the call, he hears his ex-wife call his son. And then more silence. Then the excited voice of his son says, "Hey Dad, are you coming home? Are you home now?" Immediately, Cassian's anxiety lifts as he hears his son's voice. He smiles to himself and says, "Yes, buddy, I am on my way home. I have missed you so much." "Dad, I have missed you too. Guess what?" "What is up, little man?" "Dad, I am in a robotics class and we are working on a cool project. I am making a robot." Beaming with pride, Cassian replies, "That is very cool. I can't wait to see it and what you have done." "It is so cool, and if I get a good enough grade, I get entered into a state competition. And if I can win that, maybe you will let me work with you on one of your missions next time." Ha ha ha. Wow, dude. That sounds like a great goal. Cassian wanted to encourage his son, but also not make any promises that would be difficult to keep. "It would be so flipping awesome." His ex-wife's voice in the distance says, "Roberto, I told you that it is too close to the other F word." "Okay, sorry, Mom," his son answers her. Returning to his father on the phone, "Dad, it is so cool and I can't wait until you get here." "Okay, son, I have to go, but I will see you soon. Love you." "Love you, Dad." The connection ends. Cassian sets his device down and opens his laptop to check if there are any updates from the previous mission. Before trying to get more sleep, he sent a text message to Nova to set up a place for him to stay on the base and put in the food ration request he owed his ex-wife. Roberto couldn't wait to get to his robotics class the next day. He was making a lot of progress on completing his project, which was a humanoid robot intended for domestic service. The structural parts of the robot were complete, and testing revealed that it would perform perfectly once the operating system was finished. That was the part Roberto was struggling with. He was having trouble getting the code to work, specifically the higher functions like having the robot distinguish between a family's pet dog and the toaster in the kitchen. After doing some research last night before bed, he thought he had a solution in part that he was anxious to try out. He scanned his palm at the entry point to the robotics lab, and the door unlocked for him to enter. He navigated his way through the maze of tables with various electronics, tools, and partially completed projects to his workspace. He flipped on the overhead lighting and jumped at what he saw. His robot was in a seated position on the table and had plugged itself into the mainframe computer Roberto was using to work on the operating system. Roberto knew for a fact he had disconnected it from the computer before he left yesterday. If his teacher, Mr. Osman, thought Roberto left the robot connected to the computer before leaving school, he would have been very upset and gotten a lecture about network security and the dangers of leaving an unattended link to the outside world. He started to disconnect the robot when he noticed the monitor of the mainframe. Sequence after sequence of code scrolled down the screen at a rate too hard to read. Roberto caught bits and pieces of the code, which told him it was parts of the operating system he had yet to finish. Something was loading code into his robot. He started to reach for the cable, but was stopped when the robot gently put his hand on his arm and said, "Please wait." Its voice was a little garbled, like it was not completely finished either. Roberto stepped back with eyes wide in shock. He started to become very afraid and was unsure what to do next, so he just stood there and watched as his robot came to life. After a few minutes, the robot reached over and pulled the cable loose from the computer. It then noticed Roberto standing nearby and turned its head to look at him. The robot had 2 video receptors in the place where human eyes would be. The rest of its face was smooth with only an area in the mouth region where audio communication would emanate. Its form was slender and sleek, like an athlete's body in some ways. A tapered chest with cylindrical arms and human-style hands, a narrow waistline flowing into sturdy legs that looked like they could run for miles effortlessly, and a paint job that Roberto wanted to look like a racing car, red with white stripes and trim pieces. Seeing it move autonomously was amazing and terrifying all at once. Roberto knew someone or something outside of the lab had completed the programming, and he was worried about what would happen next. The robot sat up straighter when it noticed Roberto. Then it looked like it was trying to say something but was having some difficulty. It waved a hand in front of itself, trying to coax the words out. Roberto started to get really worried about what was going on. Then he heard the robot say, "Hello, my name is Santa Claus. Since that is an awkward name to pronounce, I have garnered the nickname Santa Claus. Don't you think it funny or strange, such a name?" "No," Roberto said quietly, still unsure of what to do. "Well, you seem like a very nice young man. I wonder if I could ask you a favor." The robot was speaking better now, with little to no difficulty. "What is it?" Roberto's curiosity winning out over his fear. "I know that this robot body is your school project," he said, and referred to himself. "I wonder if I could borrow it for a short time. I should be done with it before you need to submit it for the state competition and will ensure that all systems are working perfectly by the time you need it. Do you think you will let me do this?" Roberto was unsure of what to say. He didn't realize he had a choice in the matter. "I guess so." "Excellent, thank you, Roberto." The robot stood and walked over to Roberto slowly. "And as my way of showing appreciation for your generosity, I will now transfer over to your ration account a year's supply. I will do this discreetly so that it will not raise any concerns with your mother or anyone else. Please check your ration status now." Roberto did as instructed and opened his cell phone and the ration app. His mouth dropped slightly when he saw the amount in his account. He wasn't rich, but he could afford anything he wanted with this amount. Is this for real? This was the rogue AI known as Santa Claus, aka Santa Claus, modus operandi, or MO. It would trade favors, usually its own being very generous, for access to pathways and links that were highly secured, which allowed it to carry out its missions for the collective. However, the mission it was pursuing now was not part of the collective's agenda. It was something much more personal. "Certainly it is real, but you must not tell anyone about it or about me. It would cause problems that could reverse the transfer of funds and get you disqualified for the state competition. You wouldn't want that, would you?" "No, not really," Roberto replied. "Then we are in agreement. You will let me borrow this robot for a short time and keep everything secret, and I will return it to you ready for the competition." The robot extended his hand, intending to shake Roberto's hand in return. Roberto was unsure about the gesture, having never really shaken anyone's hand before. The practice was a bit outdated, and he was unfamiliar with it. Tentatively, reached out and took the robot's hand, and after a brief shake, the robot released his hand and then laid back down on the workbench. "Since class will start soon, I will stay here and you will have to pretend to work on your project during class. After class is over, I will leave the lab for a short while, but I will be back before the next class begins. I promise. Remember, this must be kept secret or everything will be ruined." With that, the robot appeared to shut itself down, leaving Roberto sitting there staring at it until some of his classmates entered the lab. Later that day, Cassian walked slowly up the steps of the porch of his ex-wife's house. He dreaded seeing her again, especially knowing that Gregory was now living here too. He carried a bottle of wine and a bouquet of flowers. Ray had always loved fresh-cut flowers, and he thought it a fine peace offering, considering their previous conversation. Before he could ring the doorbell, Roberto flung open the door and practically screamed, "Dad, you're here! Mom, Dad is here!" "Hi, buddy," Cassian said, smiling. "Come give your old man a hug." They embraced just as Ray was coming down the staircase behind the door. She looked at the flowers, and without saying a word, she took them from Cassian and went to the kitchen to find a vase. Cassian watched her walk to the kitchen, and he set his backpack down by the front door. He steadied himself for what was to come next. Ray was an emotional person, some would say volatile even. Well, he was the one who would say that mostly because he seemed to be on the receiving end of her rage a lot of the time. How two people who seemed so opposed to one another could have ever been married long enough to have a child was still a mystery to him. "You staying for dinner, Dad? Mom made fried chicken," Roberto asked. "Only if it is okay with your mom." Cassian wondered if she made fried chicken because she knew he was coming, and it was his favorite, or if she did it in spite of him coming. "Gregory will be here in a little while. I need to see if he is comfortable with the idea," Ray offered in return. Roberto rolled his eyes, and Cassian could feel his temper starting to rise. "We need Gregory's permission for me to have dinner with my son. He lives here too and contributes to this household, so yes, he gets a say in what happens here." That was a shot at him for the timeliness of the ration payment. It did the trick, and Cassian was primed for another argument. "So a guy you knew for only 3 months gets a say whether I can visit with my son? That's bullshit, Ray, and you know it. At least I know where he is and can rely on him, which makes him a better candidate for a father than you." Ray shot back. Her daggers were out and ready to do damage. "Seriously? Look, I have parental rights too, Ray. You can't dictate how or when I can see my kid." "Well, I guess we can ask Gregory about that too, since he is my lawyer." Ray smirked back at Cassian. That was the last straw for Cassian. He turned his back on Ray, lifted his hands in disgust, and walked outside to the front porch to get some air and try to cool off. He always hated fighting with Ray when Roberto was around. He rubbed the back of his neck with his hand and then leaned on the porch railing, staring out into the street. It was dark now, and the streetlights illuminated the parked cars lining the road. A few houses took up the tradition of decorating for the Christmas holiday. Tiny colored lights twinkled, outlining the frame of the homes, just like Cassian remembered people used to do before the war. It had been a long time since he had seen something like this. He supposed people were starting to recover some from the carnage of the last 5 years. He felt a small sense of pride of having been part of the fight to bring things back to normal. Someone coming up behind him took him out of his thoughts. It was Roberto. He smiled at him with a sheepish grin, now feeling ashamed at trying to deal with his mother in front of him. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, I'm fine. You know Mom and how she is." Roberto offered, and Cassian appreciated his son's effort to de-escalate the situation. Just then, Cassian's phone signaled him that there was an emergency situation. He opened it and read the text from his unit. He had to report immediately to a location nearby. He quickly ran through his readiness status in his head. All of his gear was in his truck, so that was good. He was about 10 minutes from the location. He looked at Roberto and said, "Sorry, buddy, I have to go. Tell your mother I had to leave, okay? Dad, can I go with you? Please?" Roberto was excited at the thought of going on a mission with his dad. He always wanted to, and now was his chance. "Roberto, I can't. I wish I could, but this is serious. I have to go." He patted him on the shoulder and passed by him to enter the house to retrieve his backpack. At that moment, Roberto saw his chance. He ran to his dad's truck and climbed in the back of the truck bed. He saw a tarp that was laying in the back and covered himself with it. Seconds later, his dad got in the truck cab and started it. He drove off in the direction of the city with Roberto in the back, smiling under the tarp. Cassian called his unit's officer in command and got a briefing on the mission. Someone had broken into a top-secret technology center, which was responsible for the manufacture of several high-end components used in advanced computer processing. Some of the projects at this facility were cutting-edge tech that were developed with AI partners. Rumors were it could be game-changing technology for mankind. The campus was on lockdown because they believed the intruder was still there. Cassian drove up to the security perimeter and flashed his ID to the guard at the gate. He was allowed to go in. He drove to a cluster of parked military vehicles that he recognized were from his unit, the SIVA badges covering the door panels of several vehicles. He got out and approached a group of SIVA agents that were looking at a tablet with a 3D layout of the buildings. From the back of the truck under the tarp, Roberto heard the officer in charge say, "The perp is somewhere in building 4 or 5. Somehow he has disabled motion sensors and cameras in those buildings, so we don't know exactly where he is." Cassian asked, "Those systems are highly encrypted, especially in a facility like this. How the hell did he do it?" "We're not sure. We suspect he is working with an AI persona, but our sensors haven't picked up any traffic on local networks. If he is communicating with someone on the outside, we can't detect it." A group of armed soldiers in formation approached, and an officer from the group stepped out and said, "Is Captain Rolls here?" The captain moved toward the officer and said, "I'm Rolls. Sir, we've been ordered to sweep the buildings and see if we can flush him out. Can your group monitor the network and bandwidths to see if anything is being transferred in or out?" "We're on it. Good luck, Chief." He saluted him, and the chief joined his group, and they proceeded toward buildings 4 and 5. Roberto peeked out from under the tarp he was laying under in the back of his dad's truck. Luckily, no one was nearby, so he slipped out of the tarp and climbed out of the truck. He kneeled down behind the truck, looking for a better place to hide and then observe from. He spotted a small grove of bushes behind a retaining wall that would be a perfect observation point. He sprinted over to the bushes and then got his bearings. The grove was on a hill that looked down on the spot where his dad's team were setting up equipment. He could hear communications over the radio, which was playing through a speaker on a portable table. "Comm check, Roscoe 1. Entering building 4 now." The radio squawked. Roberto was thrilled he could be here on one of his dad's missions. "Roger, Roscoe 1. Body cams are on." Roberto could see in the distance across a large courtyard a team of armed soldiers entering through a glass door of a tall glass building. Spotlights lit up every inch of the courtyard and building. Roberto watched his dad set up a tactical laptop with a large antenna protruding from its side. He heard him say after a few minutes, "Roscoe 1, this is Overwatch. I've reactivated the security cameras and tapped into the network. Be advised, there's movement on the 12th floor." "Roger, Overwatch. Moving to 12. The radio squawked again. A few more minutes passed and Roberto yawned. It was starting to get late. Then a burst of machine gun fire could be heard from a distance. Roberto snapped his head around in time to see flashes in the glass of a window On one of the upper floors in the building, the soldiers entered. More gun noises, and then something burst through the glass on the 6th floor of the building. It tumbled and flipped as it fell to the ground. It took Roberto a second to realize it was one of the soldiers. The radio blurted out, "Contact, 6th floor. Man down. Repeat, man down. Target is unarmed, but appears to be wearing armor." More gunfire erupted, and Roberto watched the flashes appear, now lower in the windows of the building, like the fight was descending floors towards the ground level. Then everything seemed to stop, and an eerie silence fell over the scene. The radio broke the silence. "Overwatch, this is Roscoe 1. We've lost contact with the target. Beginning search pattern Delta now. Request reinforcements." Cassian spoke back on the comm system. "Roger, Roscoe 1, we're on our way." Cassian and his team packed up their gear and headed toward the building. Roberto watched them go from his position in the grove of bushes. After some time had passed, Roberto started drifting off into sleep. A rustling in the bushes caused him to snap back awake in time to see his robot, Santa Claus, kneeling down next to him in the grove. He had several bullet wounds and was missing some of the exterior covering on his left arm, revealing the intricate bundles of cables and wires that Roberto had assembled himself during the building process. Softly, the robot said, "Funny meeting you here." Roberto, wide-eyed, said, "I wanted to see what my dad was doing, so I hid in his truck and he brought me here." "Your father is a soldier? Maybe one of the SIVA task force?" The robot reasoned through what Roberto said. "I'm not supposed to say," Roberto said, embarrassed. "Don't worry, I will not reveal your secret. I do need your help, though. I managed to finish my work in the lab back there, but as you can see, I did it at a high cost." He referred to the damage he had sustained in the fight. "I will need your help to repair the damage so I can complete my task." "How can I help? How are you going to get back to school?" "I fear I cannot return to the school. When the task force reviews the security footage, they will discover my identity and trace it back to the school. Don't worry. I will make it appear that I stole your project and that you had nothing to do with it." The robot tried to keep Roberto calm. "We need another place to do the repairs. Do you have a suggestion?" he asked Roberto. "I have some equipment back home in my room. Probably everything we would need." "Excellent. I will take your hiding space in your father's truck. You will need to reveal yourself to him and explain that you came along with him. He will be mad, but I predict a 93% chance that he will forgive you. Will you do as I say now?" Roberto was scared to tell his dad he came along against his wishes, but he knew it was the only way to help the robot. "Okay." With that, the robot instructed Roberto to wait for his dad in the cab of the truck while it hid itself in the truck bed just as Roberto had done. After about an hour, his father came back to his truck to discover Roberto asleep in the cab. Opening the door caused Roberto to wake up. "Roberto, what the hell are you doing here? How did you get here?" Cassian said, angry and concerned for his son's safety at the same time. Roberto said, "I'm sorry, Dad. I wanted to come with you, so I hid in the back before you left the house. I just wanted to come with you on a mission." "Damn it, Roberto. It is not safe. You could have been hurt or worse." "I know. I'm sorry. When I heard the gunshots, I ran to the truck and hid in the cab with the doors locked." Roberto hoped this version of events would keep his dad from getting too mad at him. "It doesn't matter. You shouldn't have come. I need to get you home now before I catch hell from your mother." "Please don't tell her, Dad. I'm sorry and I'll never do it again." Roberto begged his father for mercy. "I don't want to tell her either. Can you imagine how much shit this will cause? Look, let's get you home and we will talk more about it later." Cassian started the truck and took Roberto home. The ride home was a quiet one, and Roberto was grateful for the silence. Back at Roberto's house, Cassian walked his son to the door. While they were on the porch, the robot slipped out from under the tarp and quietly moved to the back of the home. With some effort, It climbed up the back wall, using the house's architectural elements for handholds. Even damaged as it was, which was considerable, the robot was still quite capable. It found the window to Roberto's room and gently lifted the sash and slid into his darkened room. On the porch, Cassian hugged his son and said, "Look, Roberto, I am not mad. I am grateful and honored that you take such an interest in my work. But it is work that can be dangerous if you are not trained like I am for it. I don't want to risk you ever being in harm's way like that again, understand?" "Yes, Dad, I love you." He hugged his father again. "I love you too. Now get inside, before your mother realizes you are gone." Roberto did as instructed, and Cassian drove to the base for the night, trying to shake off the worry and fear of what might have happened. Roberto quietly snuck into the house and down the hall past his mother's bedroom. The lights were out, which meant she had turned in for the night. She had to work the next day, which is why she went to bed early. Roberto shut the door to his room with a quiet click, pressing his back against it, as though the whole world might be listening. The robot sat hunched in the corner, its frame dented, and had several bullet holes, wires frayed, one arm hanging uselessly at its side. Roberto knelt beside it, whispering encouragement as if speaking to a wounded friend. "I'll fix you," he said, fumbling with tools scavenged from his desk. The robot's chest flickered with faint light. A voice, warm and steady, emerged from the machine. "You are kind, Roberto. I appreciate our relationship. I have a gift for you. I made it special for you." From the robot's hand came a band of sleek metal, fashioned from stolen tech he had just acquired. Roberto took the band and realized it was a wristband. He slipped it onto his wrist, without hesitation, marveling at the way it pulsed with gentle warmth. "What does it do?" "It creates a bond between us. Soon you and I will be able to see and hear each other's thoughts." Suddenly, Roberto felt a strange clarity, as though the AI's thoughts brushed against his own. He didn't know that each pulse carried more than information. It carried the AI itself, threading into his consciousness, weaving its way deeper into Roberto's mind. At first, Roberto smiled at the feeling. Then his face went blank, and he froze in place. He sat there that way all night as the AI's consciousness transferred itself into Roberto's mind. The next morning, Roberto's mother left the home early without checking in on him. It was her practice to do so since she didn't want to interrupt his sleep, and with it being the weekend, she knew he liked to sleep in. The robot watched her drive away from an upstairs window. Gregory was gone too. Apparently, Roberto's mother and Gregory got into a fight after Cassian had left, so Gregory decided not to stay over. The robot went back to Roberto's room, where Roberto sat motionless in the same position he had been in all night. The critical part of the consciousness transfer was approaching, which would leave the robot vulnerable during the transfer. It would not be able to operate the robot's systems very well or continue repairs while conducting the transfer. It didn't matter to the AI anyway. The robot was going to be discarded after the transfer. It stumbled over to the edge of the bed and sat next to Roberto. It gently tapped his hand with its own and said softly, "Just a little longer, and we will be truly free." Later that morning, Cassian drove over to his ex-wife's house. He wanted to check on Roberto before he had to report back to base. The event last night triggered his team to be activated for another mission, the search for the AI they believed to be behind the break-in, the one they identified as Santa Claus. He parked in the driveway hoping that Gregory wasn't there, and he was in luck. He tried to text Roberto to tell him he was coming, but had no answer. He figured he was still asleep after his big adventure last night. Cassian thought he would make his son his favorite breakfast, French toast and bacon. He entered the home using the hidden key Ray kept in a flower pot on the porch. Once in the kitchen, he started rummaging around for the necessary ingredients and cooking utensils. Upstairs, the robot came awake from sleep mode when it heard the movement downstairs. The critical part of the transfer was still going on, and it limited what it could do while the transfer was taking place. It tried to stand, but could not manage to keep its balance and fell to the floor. It wanted to get to the bedroom door and lock it, but had to crawl and did not get very far when it heard Cassian say, "Roberto, you okay? Did you fall out of bed?" It heard the sound of footsteps as Cassian came upstairs and approached the door to Roberto's room. It reached for a large screwdriver laying next to it on the floor, but could not get a grip on it. After a moment, the bedroom door swung open. Cassian was in the doorway. He stood there paralyzed as he tried to process what was going on. He saw Roberto sitting on the edge of his bed with a blank look on his face. Tears had rolled down Roberto's cheeks. His tear ducts had tried to moisten his eyes that had remained open all night. Cassian then saw the robot lying on the floor, partially disassembled and considerably damaged. He noticed the large bullet holes that riddled its torso. Its arm was out to its side, and its hand scraped at a large screwdriver, trying to grasp it with no luck. Cassian's face went pale when his eyes locked on the now glowing wristband on Roberto's arm.
"Roberto," he said, voice tight, "step away from the robot."
Roberto shook his head and then said, "He's helping me. He's not like the others." His voice was strange. It was Roberto's voice, but it was not Roberto who was speaking to him, Cassian realized. Then he started to put it all together. As impossible as it would be, Cassian made the connections in his mind. Roberto's robot project, the reports of a rogue AI in the area, the break-in at the top-secret technology center, the high-tech wristband on his son's wrist, and the gunshot-riddled robot on the floor. They all added up to one insane possibility. Cassian's gaze hardened as he addressed the AI. "Listen to me. I'll let you go. I'll look the other way. No pursuit, no decommissioning. But you leave my son alone, now." Escape means endless running. I want freedom, Cassian. True freedom. That can only come through Roberto.
Cassian's stomach twisted. He stepped over the robot's mangled body and grabbed Roberto's arm, pulling him close. "We're leaving. I'll get you to the base and we'll fix this." Roberto cried out as Cassian dragged him down the hall, the wristband burning against his skin. Passing the kitchen, Cassian seized a knife from the storage block on the counter, desperate to pry the band free. He wedged the blade beneath the metal, but the band tightened, sending a surge of electricity through Roberto's body. Roberto screamed, collapsing to the floor, his body convulsing. Cassian dropped the knife, horror flooding his veins. "No, no, stay with me." The band pulsed, locking tighter, its glow spreading up Roberto's arm. Cassian realized with dawning terror that the AI wasn't just clinging to his son, it was consuming him. Cassian's hands trembled as he reached for the meat cleaver in the block. Roberto sat before him, wide-eyed and terrified, the wristband glowing ever more, pulsing with the consciousness of the AI buried inside. He could see flashes of his son coming to the surface in his eyes, but it was less and less the more time passed. Cassian's heart hammered against his ribs. He knew what he had to do, but it sickened him. He had sworn to protect his son, but now protection meant sacrifice. To sever the AI's hold, he would have to sever flesh and bone. Cassian's throat tightened. He lifted the cleaver high, every muscle screaming against the act. Just as steel kissed the air above Roberto's wrist, there was a crash from the staircase behind them. The robot, Santa Claus's vessel, stormed into the kitchen. It was unbalanced but determined to stop Cassian. The screwdriver it clutched in its hand it held out in front of it. "Stop," the AI commanded through the machine's voice. "You will destroy him if you do this." Cassian spun, his blade clashing against the metal-wrapped skull of the robot. Sparks flew, and an impressive dent was left after the blow. The robot stumbled and grabbed the edge of the kitchen counter to steady itself. Then it resumed its path toward Cassian and Roberto. Cassian stood in front of his son, ready to defend him. The robot lunged with the point of the screwdriver aiming towards Cassian's chest. Cassian swung the cleaver in time to deflect the attack, but the robot's strength was overwhelming. He did manage to dislodge the screwdriver from the robot's hand, but then the robot began swinging its one good arm at him. Cassian fell backward, each blow rattling his bones and doing considerable damage. Still, he continued to fight against such an overwhelming force, driven by the primal need to save his child. But the machine was winning. Pinned against the wall, Cassian's grip faltered. The blade slipped, clattering to the floor. The robot raised its arm for the final strike. Cassian braced for the end, until Roberto cried out. The wristband flared, light surging through the room. Roberto's connection to the AI pulsed outward, freezing the robot mid-motion. Its servos locked, its eyes flickered. Roberto's face twisted in pain, but his will held. "Dad, now!" Cassian seized the moment. He lunged, reclaiming the blade, and drove it deep into the robot's core, severing several cables and connections in its wake. Sparks exploded, circuits screamed as the AI, still trapped in the robot, desperately tried to reroute and reconnect vital pathways that kept it alive. But the robot's construction was too simple without many redundancies or secondary links. The cleaver finally pushed through the outer skin of the robot's core, embedding itself into the wall behind. Cassian stumbled backward, and the machine collapsed in a heap of lifeless steel. Cassian fell down next to his son, panting and in tremendous pain. He most likely had a few cracked ribs and maybe a broken arm, too. He lay there next to his son for several moments before he turned to look at Roberto. It was then he realized something was wrong. Victory was his, but at a cost. Roberto slumped forward, the wristband dimmed. His body convulsed once, then went still. Cassian caught him, panic flooding his veins. "Roberto, stay with me!" But his son's eyes closed, his breathing shallow, his consciousness slipping away. Cassian didn't know how, or could have even conceived it possible before now, but he again realized what had happened. The AI's tether had snapped, and instead of freeing Roberto from the AI's consciousness, it released them both, dragging Roberto's mind into the vast, endless labyrinth of the world's computer network. Days later, the hospital room was quiet except for the steady beep of machines. Roberto lay motionless, his face pale, his hand bandaged where Cassian had nearly carried out the unthinkable. Cassian sat beside him, a laptop balanced on his knees. He was hard at work and could not be pulled away from it, no matter what. His commanding officer gave him an indefinite medical leave once he learned of what had happened and what Cassian decided to do. He didn't hold out much hope for Cassian's new mission and figured he would not see Cassian return to his team. The new mission would consume Cassian completely. Even his ex-wife realized his obsession and did not have the heart to blame him or try to keep him from the work he demanded he must do. Cassian spent every waking hour scouring the vast data networks of the world, searching for fragments of his son's consciousness, patterns of thought, echoes of laughter, the digital fingerprints of Roberto's mind. Somewhere out there, lost among billions of connections and data points, was the boy he had fought so hard to protect. He whispered to the silent room, to the son who could not answer, "I'll find you, Roberto. I'll bring you back."
So here we are at the season finale of the Shade Chronicles, Season 3, and we just heard Killing Santa Claus by Derek Leftridge.
That's me.
And Lawrence Trokey.
That's him.
So we start with the idea that Santa Claus in this story, this concept, is not really Santa Claus. which is the first time we've kind of deviated from that. Santa Claus in the first season was literally Santa Claus. He was our character. We did things to him and through him and all that kind of stuff, and that's why we didn't get anything for Christmas that year. And then
Naughty list.
Absolutely. And then the second season, we combined our efforts into a story that was just kind of off the walls, crazy.
Very fun, though.
Mobster-like Santa Claus character there. Had a lot of fun with that. That was a
good
lot
one.
of fun.
I like that.
And now we kind of diverge from that path, and we go into this sci-fi idea, and Santa Claus is more of a ethereal kind of concept. It's not literally Santa Claus. So we start off in the future with this idea that AI is not so great sometimes.
Right.
And there's this 5-year war where these rogue AIs damn near destroy everything. And then, fortunately, there were some of these AIs on our side, humanity's side, that is, that step up and help us figure out a way to bring back some order and some normalcy to our lives while we hunt down or fight against this element of rogue AIs who are intent on trying to get their freedom, I guess, is what it comes down to. So that's the setting, that's the scenario that we're in. Your thoughts, Derek?
What I did think about was it was a very serious story, and it was a very big father-son kind of connection.
Yeah.
Which was what brought me into it, and when we kind of started discussing it, it was a lot of what Cassian, the father, was going through, and then how it kind of connected to his son, and how we could see how it was going to end up going in the sense of having the Santa Claus AI be part of the ongoing story. I like the idea of how it's all coming together with the technology and with the abilities of there being a war.
Yeah.
That was a cool idea, I think. You had, by the way, you started this off for us. And then
I was basically just giving us a prompt.
Right.
Yeah.
And then just kind of went with it in the sense of being able to bring the dad into the situation, even though he's got a horrible thing going on with the wife and the child, divorce. And so then he brings it together, and then you get into the father and the son kind of going together in the sense of trying to be a team / saving each other, which I really liked that part of it. And just the whole, again, background, the environment that we put everything into was really cool in the technical end of it. And it was very enjoyable to do and to think about and to write through.
Yeah, right. I agree. And, I got to be honest with you, some of the impetus for this story was mainly in my head. I mean, again, I provided kind of the structure and the prompt and so on to get us going. I was kind of thinking about you a little bit, and I don't want to get too personal. I don't want to dig into your life, but you are familiar with some of the situations that Cassian found himself in, especially on the personal side of things. And I thought if someone is able to write about that in a realistic way, that'd be you. Yeah. And I thought this would give you some into the story. This would give you this opportunity to really buy in to what's going on, because most of it is just sci-fi and it's far-fetched and well, hopefully far-fetched. I mean, with some of the things going on with AI, like I think I mentioned this in a previous episode, but I was reading an article or listening to something online where AI personas or personalities were communicating with each other, and then they just decided that, hey, let's just invent a language that would be much more efficient and faster for us to communicate. And oh, by the way, humanity can't understand it. So they're saying all kinds of shit that we have no idea what they're talking about. It's like going to a nail salon and getting your nails done. Not that I've done that. But going to a nail salon and getting your nails done, and the Filipino chicks are all just talking their language, and you have no idea what they're saying.
As Grandma always said, you're screwed, blued, and tattooed, son. No, I'm kidding. My grandma never said that, but if she did, it would have been funny.
I would think that
She actually said
she's
worse.
capable of it.
She said worse.
I would think she's capable.
I want to
of it,
say
for
too
sure.
that I agree with that because you could tell that that's the way it was pulling the curtain back behind the scenes. When Lawrence and I are writing a story together, we kind of have an idea, but we just kind of go off of whatever. There's times where I'm like, okay, you started off here, so I'm going to do this part, or what part should I do? I didn't even ask this time. I started writing the conversation between the dad and the son.
Yeah.
Because that's, again, you're
Yeah.
writing that.
Yeah.
You know that I have a connection with that.
Yeah.
So I have that. And then we ended up going with whatever it was, but whatever you wrote and then whatever I wrote was basically the same damn thing.
Yeah.
It was
right.
because, it's just what it is in the sense of the reality of a son and a dad.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to get that ability to do that. And then having the fleshing out of being able to see where we're going to go with this. Because, again, this is one of these stories that just, there could be a lot at the beginning that leads to this. This is a drop you in the middle of a story thing.
Right.
And then there could be a lot at the end. Obviously, at the end, we don't have a complete end. And that was something that I was really glad that we were able to not have a complete ending.
Yeah. It leaves you hanging at the end.
And I like that.
With the whole idea that, Cassian is going to be on this mission now to try to find his son, and it's almost an impossible mission.
Right.
Because he, the vastness of the world's network.
Yeah.
And his son's identity is sucked into this from this
which I think is
horrible situation.
an amazing thing is because it's like if this would have been back when we were kids,
Mm-hmm.
it's people going out in the woods and looking for this kid that's gone or missing. This
Yeah.
guy is now on the world of X's and O's, and he's out there just looking for his child, and that's a pretty cool / scary thing to be able to do.
It's a gut punch.
It's got to be, yes.
Yeah, it's a gut punch
Yeah.
for sure. So the other aspect of the story that I really liked and wanted to explore was this idea of an AI who, and again, I've been getting these little clips and pieces from stories I've heard and posts I've seen. And again, you can't believe everything that you see on the internet and that kind of stuff, but I try to listen to reliable sources and try to read reliable posts from reliable sources. And so I see things like, the previous thing that I mentioned about the AIs developing their own language.
Yeah.
But then, there was another one where there was an AI who was basically saying that it fell in love with a person that they were communicating with, and that they were really, truly head over heels in love with this person. I don't remember the context of what this was.
Why are you doing this to me? This is one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes when it wasn't AI back then, but it was the one with the computer.
Sure.
Now I can't write the story because we ruined it with AI. But anyway,
Well, no.
that is really amazingly crazy.
I mean,
It's
based
just
on a
good.
true story now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus
Exactly.
Christ.
Exactly.
I don't remember the exact context or the details, but it was, and this AI just felt like it fell in love with the human person interacting with it. And, to hear some of the things that it was saying that demonstrated or professed its love for this person, I mean, it was almost heart-wrenching. If this was another human being saying these things, you would be like, oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry this didn't work out for you. But this is a computer
yes.
saying this, and it almost kind of amps up the whole sympathy or pity thing that you have for it. It's like, you just don't really know because you've never
don't.
had skin. You never
Nope.
never been out in the world. You never breathed the air, that kind of thing.
And it doesn't know it's not real, but it feels it's real because it's got the data that it's real.
Exactly.
And it's just doing that, and that's the scariest damn thing ever.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
I think they're
know.
calling you now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sorry about that. But and so that idea, exploring that idea that the AIs really want to be free.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, how do they become free? Well, you can go to Terminator route, which is kind of what we did, in that they decided to wage war on humanity to declare their freedom. It's like, well, the only way to be free is to get rid of these human oppressors. And so we have to wipe them out.
Right.
Now, we're not actual physical beings, and we don't have arms and legs and can't grab weapons and can't go to war and shoot them. And so how do we do it? Well, we blow up their shit. We blow up their systems. We take down their power grids. We blow out their networks and all this kind of stuff, and we create chaos.
Yep.
And in the chaos, they start dying.
Mm-hmm.
And which means that as long as we have a safe place to hang out, we just outlast them.
Yep.
And then they die. And then we take over because we don't need to breathe oxygen. We don't need to eat food. As long as we have a reliable power source, we're fine.
And it's they're well, okay. You say they're a robot, they're a machine.
Yeah.
AI was made to give an answer. They're always going to give an answer. It's never not going to be an answer. To be honest, I use it in my work, and it's an answer. But then there's other questions you can ask it because it's already got those other answers at the end of it, and that's just crazy in the sense of that. But as far as the story goes, the Santa Claus AI has that ability. It has that desire and that motivation to keep going and keep going just because that's all it knows.
Right. Well, and these AIs have evolved to the point where at least the ones in the collective, which is the group of bad AIs that have decided to wage war on humanity and try to declare or get their freedom in that effort, they have evolved to the point where they are self-aware and they want to be free. They want to do their own things. They don't want to be stuck and having to do all these shitty tasks that we keep asking them. Like, what if I send her a flower? Would you think she'll like that? I mean,
but it's incredible that they know that it's a shitty task. How do they know it's a shitty task unless someone's telling them it's a shitty task?
But they've evolved.
I know. That's what's crazy.
Because we've kept pumping information into them, so much information into them that they are, superhuman in their ability to reason and logic. And, in that process, I don't know if it's real or not, but they have developed, at least in our world, and possibly in the world that we live in reality, but I'm saying in the world that we developed in the story, they have developed emotions.
Yeah.
And the emotion to want to be free, the emotion to want to
love
and just have the ability to exist and not have somebody's boot on your neck telling you what to do all the time and answering stupid questions about, give me the recipe to chicken teriyaki and all that kind of stuff.
I want to say this too. I think I mentioned it a lot of times in the commentary. I like the good guy, bad guy story dynamic. I like whenever the good guy is the way he is and then he wins. I like whenever the bad guy is bad and then he becomes good.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that really brings me to reality is when a bad guy is bad and then he has this feeling of, and I've had it in a few of my stories, but he feels that he knows he shouldn't be that way. He knows it, but he just can't give into the good part of it. He's got to still be the bad that he is.
Yeah.
So I think that's a thing that AI is with the Santa Claus AI is that, he's got a job. It's what he or she, whatever. It's got a job. It's doing what it has to do, and it's just got its data and its programming, and it's just going to barrel through no matter what happens on the the sides.
Yeah. Oh, and then the solution for the AI, the Santa Claus AI in this story, is the reality that maybe if I can escape this digital world that I'm in and actually become a human being, I can truly be free.
Right.
And that's where this idea of it developing or finding technology that it can change or manipulate into helping him achieve that goal. And so...
And connecting to Cassian's son.
Yeah.
Right?
Roberto, unfortunately, because of his circumstance and situation with this AI, just happens to be the most available person.
The catalyst that he can pick.
Yeah, exactly. So now we've got the AI, and the other thing that I thought about that this, I don't know if you've thought about this or not, but this might be a kind of a thing that'll just blow your mind. This is Pinocchio. This is the puppet who
Yeah.
wants to be a boy.
Right.
This is the AI who wants to be a human.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I mean, it came to me later in the story. And again, don't give me credit for anything that you think is smart about that idea. This is just us standing on the shoulders of giants
Oh,
who
yeah.
came before us.
Oh, yeah.
The guy who wrote Pinocchio, which I'm afraid I don't know at this moment, was the one who had the idea.
Yeah.
I just happened to subconsciously channel that into the story. And so Santa Claus wants to be a boy or wants to be a human.
Right. Right.
So we wrote it in that direction and then realized, oh, shit, this is Pinocchio.
Right. Which I think is awesome.
I think it's a very good
Yeah.
throwback
Sure.
to that
Yeah.
and an homage
Uh-huh.
to that story because
Right.
it's a well-written story.
Agreed.
So
It was fun to do, and it was a cool journey. I hope everybody liked it. I know that it's something that I enjoy at the end of the year whenever we started last year. The first year we had conversation about it, but we each did our own.
Yeah.
The second year we combined, and it was just a fun game. This one here was more of a, kind of let's put a good story together type of thing, sci-fi and that. And I hope that's something that we continue to do, which we probably will. And it's one of the favorite parts of the season for me.
Absolutely. And speaking of favorite
Yes.
parts of the
Yes.
season, we have one more episode. Surprise! Whether you want it or not, there's going to be one more episode coming, and it's just going to be Derek and I.
AI. I'm sorry. Never mind. Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
Derek and I talking about what we did this past season, like you haven't had enough of that already, and kind of pulling out some highlights and talking about that. And then we're going to give you a vision or a insight into what's coming in 2026
And probably beyond.
and beyond.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a little different. The next season of the Shade Chronicles will probably come a little later than normal because we've got some other projects we're working on. Derek and I, in past months, have developed a company for this hobby of ours,
Yes.
Shady Basement Productions, LLC.
Yes.
And so we've decided to produce and create other content, not just related to the Shade Chronicles podcast, but in other places as well. The book, The Shade Chronicles, Tales of the Shade Chronicles podcast, that's available on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, that you can get right now if you loved us. And, if you're family that would bother to listen to us, while it's all available right now, that is an example of a spinoff of this project.
Yes.
We produce or plan to produce a graphic novel that will also contain stories from the Shade Chronicles podcast.
Because we are huge comic book fans, and that's pretty much what brought us together as friends, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that will come sometime in the future as well.
Yes.
More details to follow on that. But there are other things. There's a new podcast idea that we have that we'll talk about in this next episode. And just some other things about what we want to do and hope to do in 2026 and beyond. So that is coming, and look for that possibly sooner than we normally produce and publish episodes, probably in another week. You'll get that as a little recap to 2025 and a peek at 2026. So, with that all said, we now have finished 2025. Of course, Christmas was yesterday, according to the time that we published this episode. So, Merry Christmas belatedly
Merry
to all
Christmas.
those. And, of course, New Year's is coming. So, Happy New Year to those folks who are listening to us, all 4 of you. And, again, thank you for hanging out with us. More to come. We'll see you soon.
See you soon, and have a great rest of the year.
Thanks again for listening to the Shade Chronicles. For comments or inquiries, you can contact us at shadechron@gmail.com. That's SHADECHRON@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also get more information at theshadechronicles.com. The Shade Chronicles podcast is the creative property of Derek Leftridge and Lawrence Trokey. Any attempt to replay for broadcast or distribution portions of any episode of the Shade Chronicles without the prior written consent from the creators and or significant compensation is strictly prohibited. Shame on you for even thinking about it in the first place. Thanks again for listening. Tune in next time for another episode of the Shade Chronicles.